So a fiat currency is a currency that is backed by no physical asset. And here we have examples of lots and lots and lots of fiat currencies. So these are the currencies that I picked up on my travels to 35 countries around the world. And some of them are worth quite a lot, and some of them are worth a lot less, okay, in terms of spending power. But these are fiat currencies. Now I want to share with you just a few specific fiat currencies. So the first one we've looked at already is the dollar bill, and on the back it says, "In God we trust." Now this is issued by the US government. When it says "In God we trust," you'll notice it doesn't mention which God we trust. It's issued by the US government, and it is effectively an IOU by the US government. So right now I have this piece of paper. The US government owes me $1. And when I come and see you and you have a banana, or for example, and you want to sell that banana or bunch of bananas to me for $1, effectively what I'm doing is I'm saying, hey, the US government owes me $1. I'd quite like those bananas. Why don't I give you this, which means that the US government owes you $1 and you give me the bananas, and then you can then take this dollar and have the same conversation with somebody else, etc, etc, etc. So that's why this currency works. Okay, now I'm speaking from here in the UK. So let's have a look at a bit of UK currency. So here we have a £5 note. Now this is actually an old £5 note. This is no longer a legal tender here in the UK, but on your screen you'll see a new £5 note. And what's interesting about this one is it says across the top of the Bank of England, and if you look carefully underneath the Bank of England, you can see in very small print it says, "I promise to pay the bearer on demand the sum of £5," and it's signed by the chief cashier of the Bank of England. Now you can take this, is effectively a IOU by the UK government. You can take this into any bank and you can hold it up to the window and you can say, "Oi, you owe me £5, I want my £5," and you slip it under the window, and the teller on the other side will look you slightly quizzically and give it back to you, because they will say this is £5. Okay, once again, exactly like the dollar, the UK government owes me £5, and I can swap this with somebody else and say, look, why doesn't the UK government owe you £5 and you give me that bunch of bananas, for example. Okay, there's our pounds. Next one I want to talk about is this one here. So this is a Scottish pound note. Okay, now this is legal tender here in England, but they don't really like it. So if I go and visit my brother-in-law up in Scotland, I tend to collect a few of these and then I try to pay taxi drivers down here in the UK, in London, and they get very shirty about it. But this is legal tender. Now, once again, this says in the very small writing, if you can see very carefully on your screen, it says the Royal Bank of Scotland promises to pay the bearer on demand the sum of £10 at their head office here in Edinburgh. Okay, now this is an important distinction. Okay, so this is issued by the Bank of England. The Bank of England is the oldest central bank in the world. 1694 it was founded, but it was nationalised in 1946. So it is effectively a government-owned, government-controlled entity. RBS is not. RBS is a publicly limited company. It's what's known as a private bank. But the Royal Bank of Scotland is issuing its own banknotes. Now, in 2007-2008, during the global financial crisis, Royal Bank of Scotland went bust. And if the Royal Bank of Scotland had gone bust, then this would have had no value. Because if you turned up at their head office in Edinburgh, you'd have found an empty building with a "gone out of business" sign across the front door. So you'd have said, well, hold on a sec, nobody owes me this money. And therefore the UK government had to step in and bail out the Royal Bank of Scotland. Okay, so this has value as long as the entity, whether it's a government or central bank or a private bank, as long as that entity is still solvent and still there. If it's no longer there, then this has no value. People lose faith in it. Okay, that's our first lesson. Now, I also want to show you these two banknotes here. Okay, so these two are two €5 banknotes, and I want you to look very carefully and see if you can notice the difference. Now, I can tell you now that neither of them is a counterfeit, so it would be illegal for me to own counterfeit money. Okay, so they are both perfectly valid. They've got the watermark, etc., etc. So they're perfectly legal tender. And you might be sitting there saying, well, Ted, I can't tell any difference. And you'd be right, these are fungible. If I lend you this one and you give me back this one, it doesn't really matter which one. You know, they're exchangeable, they're fungible. But what you cannot see and what I can see is the serial number printed on the back. And the last letter of the serial number indicates the central bank that issued this currency. And the top one ends with an X, that's issued by the Central Bank of Germany. And the bottom one, it ends in a Y and is issued by the Central Bank of Greece. Why should I care, you might ask? Well, that's a perfectly fair question. But during 2011 to 13, the European debt financial crisis, when Greece was really struggling to refinance its debt, there was a possibility that Greece was going to get kicked out of the EU and kicked out of the euro. And there were rumours that said, well, if Greece is going to exit the euro, then they're no longer going to back any euro notes issued by the Central Bank of Greece. Why would they? They'll just say, well, we don't do that anymore. We have the drachma, so why would we want to bother with the euro? And therefore, there were rumours that said that if you own one of these, it will become worthless because it's issued by the Central Bank of Greece and Greece is no longer in the euro. The reality doesn't matter, by the way. It's all about the rumours, because as soon as you start to hear these rumours, then there are rumours that shops in and around the Eurozone say, well, we will not accept a euro note that ends in Y, but we will accept a euro note that ends in X. So now you might ask yourself, if I was to offer you these, which one would you rather have? Well, logically, you'd rather have the X that you know you can exchange for goods and services to the value of €5, rather than taking a risk with the Y, because there's a possibility that the person on the other side of the trade will not accept it in exchange for goods and services to the value of €5. And this shows us effectively the problem with fiat currency. It works until it doesn't work. As long as you have faith in this, as long as the other party has faith in it, it works as a very good medium of exchange. And we know it works because we use it day to day. But as soon as it fails, as soon as it stops working, effectively it collapses. It has no value, and we end up with holding a piece of paper with pretty pictures on it, which has no value.